Ladies and gentlemen, Crusade the Polish Geek decided now to rank all 5 Indiana Jones movies from worst to best. Like, I just reviewed Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I decided now it's time to rank all 5 movies from worst to the best. Because I adore Indiana Jones. At least the first 3, yeah, I adore the first 3. The first 3 Indiana Jones movies, fabulous masterpieces. Fabulous. True masterpieces. And some of the best classics in the history of cinema. First 3 Indiana Jones movies, magnificent movies. But I'm going to rank all 5 of those movies from worst to best. The amazing thing about Indiana Jones movies always has been that they were like, to many people they would come off as standard classic treasure hunt adventure movies, but for some reason they always felt so fresh, and there was always something so unique, and something always felt so unique and special about them. It's hard to even describe what was it, but they like had some magic to them, like something always felt so amazing, so special, so unique and fresh about them. That's right, and each time I would watch an Indiana Jones movie I'd always feel so much joy because those movies were so amazing. So let's rank them from worst to best. And coming in number 5 is, of course, to no one's surprise, the dreadful Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the one I just reviewed. Well, there's not much more I have to say about this movie other than it's just bad. Like, when you watch it, it feels like literally like some mediocre random adventure movie, but if you also add in Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones being played, like not being really himself and being insulted at every opportunity by Phoebe Waller's character, and you have a movie that's either very mediocre but it's also an outright insult to a beloved character. So yes, Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny at number 5. Number 4, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And this movie, like, I see lots of division now. I see some people saying this movie is a pure trash, but I see now some people, including some YouTubers I admire, actually on both sides I see YouTubers I admire on both sides. Some YouTubers I admire say it's a complete trash, and then others say it's pretty underrated, and while it's nowhere near as good as the first 3, it's still not as bad as some others make it out to be. And there are even some who go as far as to say it's better than the Temple of Doom, and with that I think that claim I call bullshit. Yep, bullshit, but whatever. But yeah, where do I stand on here? I guess I'm somewhere in between. I will not go as far as to say the movie is complete trash, and it certainly has some good moments to it. But now upon a rewatch, because I first watched the movie when it first came out, like some 15 years ago, and I remember loving it back then and thinking it was on the same level of quality as the first 3. But now upon a rewatch, I think this movie has a lot of very dumb, silly moments, like the scene in the jungle, how Indiana Jones' son jumps on the vines with the monkeys. Yeah, that's so stupid, and there is some bad CGI too. And honestly, even the concept of aliens, I'm not even sure it quite works well for Indiana Jones. So yes, there are lots of really silly things in this movie, but it doesn't change the fact there are some good things too. Like, actually, I really like that Indiana Jones reunited with Marion, especially that she was always my favorite female character from Indiana Jones, and they had a son together, and she's rightfully mad at him. Yeah, that's actually it. I think that Marion and her son are really the best parts of the movie. Like Indiana Jones learning he had a son with Marion and reuniting with them, that's what I consider the best part of the movie. And I also really thought that having the Soviets as the main villains instead of the Germans, that also was pretty cool, because the story takes place at the Cold War, so I think it makes now far more sense for the Soviets to be the villains. So the Soviets as villains and Indiana Jones reuniting with Marion and their son, those are the parts of the movie I really like. But there are also really bad parts, as just said, like the CGI is bad, there is some silly over-the-top stuff that really doesn't fit, and even the whole concept of aliens, again, I don't think it quite works for Indiana Jones. So overall, I have to say the movie is a mixed bag, which probably why some people say it's trash, because it's Indiana Jones we are talking about, and come on, Indiana Jones shouldn't be a mixed bag, like it should be a masterpiece perfection, which we're going to get to now. Because now the next 3 movies on this list, all the following 3 now, all those 3 are magnificent masterpieces. All those movies are like 11 out of 10, literally. The score for all the 3 movies now I'm going to talk about is literally like 11 out of 10, because those movies now are all perfection and are all masterpieces. So yes, now we're getting into all the Indiana Jones movies are like 11 out of 10 masterpieces. Coming in number 3, and I know that will be a very unpopular opinion, but Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, there's no negatives I have to say about this movie, because this movie is perfection. It's more that I personally slightly prefer the following 2 a little more, but I have no negatives to say about this movie. This movie is simple perfection, and it introduced us to the awesome character of Indiana Jones and his treasure hunting adventures. Like, the story of this movie is amazing, of Indiana Jones reuniting with Marion, whose heart he broke long ago, and then teaming up together to find Ark of the Covenant. The story is amazing, and Balok is an amazing villain, and Marion is by far my favorite female character in the Indiana Jones franchise. And because it was the 80s, there is not much CGI. In fact, there's barely any CGI. It's all practical effects. Perfection, and the action here is great. Like, and when you watch the movie, you always feel like this is what Hollywood used to be. This is where they truly cared about good storytelling, because there is no negatives I have to say about this movie. I guess it's more to do that I have somewhat biased opinion that I slightly prefer my 2 and 1 more, but this movie is perfection, and I have no negatives to say about it. And honestly, I can totally see why it's some people's favorite, because it's perfection and it's the one that started it all. So I totally think it's a great choice for a favorite Indiana Jones movie, even if I slightly prefer next 2 on this list. Coming in number 2, and that's another fan favorite that's often actually debated among fans if this one isn't really the best one instead of Raiders, and that's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Like, that movie is amazing. I'm actually sometimes debating if I prefer slightly Raiders of the Lost Ark or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It actually kind of goes back and forth, but I decided to go with Crusade, as I like slightly more, because I just love the relationship between Indiana Jones and his father, and I think that Sean Connery is perfect for the role of Indiana Jones' father, especially that James Bond was in some ways like one of the characters that kind of inspired Indiana Jones. And I remember that when I was introduced to both Indiana Jones and James Bond, it was around the same time. So yeah, but I think that Sean Connery is simply perfect choice to play Indiana Jones' father, and their father-son dynamic is just amazing. I love it. And then I also love the action. This movie is also really fantastic, and I think Walter Donovan is also a very interesting villain. And another thing I love about it is that that's maybe one of them, the one thing I decided what gives it an edge over Raiders of the Lost Ark, for me at least, because I love the myth of the Holy Grail. I love it so much. And Knight Templars, I'm really fascinated with the Knight Templar history. I love history in general, but Knight Templars is one of my very favorite things to learn about. Like, yeah, I'm a gigantic fan of the Knight Templars, so the fact that the myth of the Holy Grail is very much relates to the Knight Templars is probably one of the very reasons what gives this movie a slight edge over Raiders of the Lost Ark, because I very much prefer the myth of the Holy Grail a little more than I like the myth of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, so that's why. But overall, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is perfection. And the final scene, how Indiana Jones, his father, and his father ride off in a sunset with the classic Indiana Jones music, is is a perfect send-off to the character, and in some ways I wouldn't mind if that was the ending, because in some ways that felt like actually an ending. Indiana Jones running off in a sunset with his father. But Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, amazing movie. But my number one favorite Indiana Jones movie, and that's kind of an unpopular opinion, but by far my number one Indiana Jones is actually Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Yeah, very unpopular opinion, but I just love Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And what I love about it, like the opening sequence in Hong Kong is really cool and interesting. And then I actually love that it isn't, I wouldn't call it quite a big scale like Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's more like a small scale story takes place in an Indian village and a palace nearby. And also the very thing that many people seem to hate about it, that's right, that seems to be the one thing most people seem to hate about it is the very thing I love about it. I love that it's much darker than all the other Indiana Jones movies and introduces things like human sacrifice, child slavery, and cult and all that. Yeah, that seems to be the very thing that most people seem to hate, but ironically it's one of the major things I love about it. I love the much darker take on Indiana Jones' adventure, and some scenes outright feel like horror, but for some reason, for me, that just works. Like, it just works. It doesn't feel inconsistent with Indiana Jones at all. Quite the opposite. It feels like a much darker take on Indiana Jones, but yet still very much classic Indiana Jones. So yeah, I love the dark take. And another things I love about the movie is Short Round. Short Round has always been one of my favorite Indiana Jones characters, and I love the dynamic between Indy and Short Round. And like I said in my Dial of Destiny review, a good choice story would be to have adult Short Round team up with Indiana Jones. But oh well, whatever. And also another attack that people hate this movie on is the character of Willy. They say she's annoying. But again, she's supposed to be annoying. Like, I don't know what people are expecting. She was supposed to be annoying. I actually think she undergoes through a cool character development, and while, like most people, I don't like her in the beginning of the movie, but I actually think she went for a great character development, and by the end of the movie, she's actually far more likable than she was in the beginning. So yeah, I have no problem with Willy at all. I find her annoying, but I do think she goes through a great character development. And another thing, this movie is also the one that introduces like a minecart ride. Yeah, like if you've been to many theme parks with Indiana Jones rides, you can often ride on like a Indiana Jones roller coaster, and it's obvious that roller coaster was inspired from Temple of Doom, since that's where they are going on this roller coaster. So good job. And even the story of the movie I already said is very interesting. I love how it's much smaller scale and darker. Yeah, like anytime I watch this movie, I'm engaged through and through, and I can't get my eyes off it. Like, out of all Indiana Jones movies, I think Temple of Doom is the one I watch the most. But I love Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. I mean, I love all three classic Indiana Jones movies, but I think Temple of Doom is my favorite, even though Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade are also perfect movies. Okay guys, so here is my ranking of all 5 Indiana Jones movies. Tell me your ranking of the Indiana Jones movies, and press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you later, bye!